Hello, and thank you for joining this presentation on the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program focused on research plan statements. My name is Matthew Plusser, and I'm the Assistant Dean of the Graduate School here at the University of Utah. Part of my role as Assistant Dean is that of Graduate Fellowship Advisor. I'm here to help you and support you as you apply for nationally competitive graduate fellowships, including the NSF-GRFP. In today's presentation, we'll briefly go over NSF-GRFP eligibility, then we'll dive into research statements, getting started, different research plan considerations, intellectual merits and broader impacts, page structure, introducing and outlining your research plan, writing tips, a few notes on proofreading and seeking feedback. Then we'll go through some frequently asked questions and resources that are available to you. The National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellow helps ensure the vitality of human resource base of science and engineering in the United States and reinforces its diversity. The program recognizes and supports outstanding graduate students in NSF-supported science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines who are pursuing research-based master's and doctoral degrees at accredited United States institutions. As the oldest graduate fellowship of its kind, the fellowship has a long history of selecting recipients who achieve high level of success in their future academic and professional careers. The reputation of the GRFP follows recipients and often helps them become lifelong leaders that contribute significantly to both scientific innovation and teaching. Past fellows include numerous Nobel Prize winners, executive level cabinet members, and leaders in the corporate world in Silicon Valley and authors. The National Science Foundation provides a number of benefits. This is a 5-year fellowship that provides 3 years of funding. This allows you to use the funding when it is best for you. You may be balancing the fellowship with research responsibilities or teaching responsibilities that may be of interest or a requirement of your graduate program. Additionally, you may have time restricted fellowships that can only be used in a certain time that you wish to utilize, and you can do so by moving your NSF-GRFP uh, a year further and utilizing a year of reserve to do so. The annual stipend over 3 years is $37,000 a year, and this is paid monthly in about 3,000 and some change a month. Your tuition during each year of funding is completely covered, fall, spring, and summer semester, and the NSF does provide a career-life balance, namely family leave, so a parental leave, medical leave, etc., and access to professional development, including the National Science Foundation internship program that provides additional funding for you to pursue a non-academic internship, such as one in government, nonprofit world, or in the corporate world. Many colleges and universities will provide their fellows with additional benefits. The University of Utah will cover your health insurance, an annual research and professional development stipend, and some research faculty will provide some additional bonuses on top of that to help retain you and make a competitive offer for you here at the University of Utah. Some other important benefits of the fellowship are that this is a mobile award, and you can take it to any accredited college or university in the United States, provided that they provide a research-based master's or doctoral program in your area of study. Occasionally, especially for those of you applying as rising seniors, this may provide a step up in graduate admissions. This provides prestige and recognition of your academic achievements as well as your potential and boosts your resume or CV. And very importantly, one of the benefits of the fellowship is it establishes a pattern of seeking external funding. In the fellowship world, we say that the benefit is in the process. Yes, we want you to get the awards and get that funding. However, you are learning and exercising various skills along the way that will be valuable far longer after you leave the college or university. Especially those of you who are pursuing careers in academia as professors or researchers, or those going into nonprofit or contractor work. It is important to have those skills of seeking funding and hopefully getting that funding. To be eligible for the NSF-GRFP, you must be a United States citizen, national, or permanent resident, and must be enrolled or intend to enroll in a research-based master's or doctorate in an eligible STEM field. For those of you who are applying before being admitted to graduate school, so rising seniors and those who may have taken a break between bachelor's and graduate school, you may be applying for this award before you have even applied to a graduate program. That is understood by the National Science Foundation and by the reviewers. So that is a perfectly normal thing to happen. Please don't let that keep you from applying for the award. The eligible STEM fields are these various categories: chemistry, computer and information science, and engineering, geoscience, life sciences, materials research, mathematical science, physics and astronomy, psychology, social sciences, and STEM education. The National Science Foundation defines social science as part of STEM, and that includes various areas such as science policy, public policy, economics, sociology, and other areas. STEM education includes learning research, and this is more focused on the study of how STEM is taught, uh, history of STEM education and such, rather than perhaps an example would be getting a master's in chemistry education to go teach chemistry at the K-12 level. That's a different type of STEM degree. So we covered who is eligible. Now we'll cover who is not supported by the NSF-GRFP. Joint science and professional degree programs, so pairing with your PhD, a JD or MBA or MSW is not allowable, even if a joint program or dual degree program is available at your university. The National Science Foundation does have the expectation that fellows concentrate exclusively on their program and not split their focus with other degrees at the same time. Business administration and management degrees are not eligible, nor are mental health degrees such as counseling or social work. History is not allowable with the exception of history of science. Education is not allowable outside of STEM education and learning research, and professional degrees such as professional science masters, masters of public health, and medical laboratory sciences are not eligible. If you are not sure if this describes your intended degree program, please reach out to me and we can discuss that together. Additionally, research within disease-related goals, unless you are in a biomedical engineering field, as well as clinical research, which may consist of patient-oriented research, epidemiological and medical behavioral studies, outcomes research, and health services research, in addition to pharmacologic, non-pharmacologic behavioral interventions and studies. These are areas that are not supported by the National Science Foundation and may be more appropriate from other national funding sources, such as the National Institutes of Health. There are three primary components to the NSF-GRFP application. You'll complete an online profile and enter information into various fields that describe your background. However, there are three additional components. First, it's transcripts of all degree granting institutions you have attended, even if you did not graduate. Those of you who are applying as first-year graduate students, come the deadline in October 2024, you are in your first semester, you might not have a transcript at your institution yet as a graduate student. As such, you'll go to your office of the registrar and have an enrollment verification form completed. This is similar to a transcript in that it verifies that you are in the program that you are saying that you are in. You have two various statements that need to be uploaded, a 3-page personal statement and a 2-page graduate research plan, and reference letters. You are required to have 2 uploaded letters of recommendation. 3 are recommended and can be included in your evaluation by reviewers. You are able to enter up to 5 names and email addresses, and this allows you the flexibility of, let's say, one of your top choices of recommenders, for whatever reason, is not able to upload a letter on time. You'll have spare letters so that you can have the maximum 3 letters included in your application review. Now, discussing research plan statements. This is a maximum of 2 pages, which is important to fill all 2 pages. Standard 11-point font, Times New Roman, 1-inch margins, single space. In this, you must address broader impacts and intellectual merits, each with their own unique header. No header of broader impact and intellectual merit, your application will not be reviewed. This is your opportunity to talk about who you are, how you've prepared for grad school and research, and your professional and leadership goals post-doctorate. To get started, I would encourage you to reflect on the following questions. What's my research question and why is this important? Is this particularly timely right now to be evaluated, or what is prompting that this being important to address at this point? What is my proposed research project and how will it answer the question? Why is this the best option for my research question? So think of your research question as the overall inquiry, and the project is how you are answering the inquiry. What do I hope to achieve with my research? What are my expected outcomes? What is necessary for me to conduct this project? What sort of resources, skills, faculty, and PI support are necessary? What sort of background do you need to gain that you may not have yet that will be important for this project? And how have I prepared to execute this project? What preparation lies ahead of me? So diving into these various steps, first, your research problem. What is your question and what is the problem that you're aiming to solve? How is this valuable to solving human or societal problems? Why is it important that this question be answered? Why is this still a problem? What is wrong with the existing solutions or lack thereof solutions? Has answering your research question already been attempted? If so, how will your approach be different? What is it that you will be doing? What variables will be different? What lens will you be approaching this through that is different from previous attempts? And what do you expect to achieve in addressing your research question? Regarding that research question, what will you individually be doing to what action will you be taking to address the problem through your research project? It is important to note that your research project does need to be independent and original from your faculty mentors' research that they conduct in their own lab. So this cannot be a continuation or a subset of their research, but needs to be taken in a direction of your own. What are the necessary steps to take? So looking at the scientific process, but also what are those different more specific elements? Do you need to do coding? Do you need to um, do various experiments or field research? Is there data that will need to be analyzed? How will you be, what sort of methodology and framework will you be working within? You want to be specific, but you also want to avoid the minutia. So while you want to discuss each various step and the importance of those, you don't necessarily need to go into minute details. So for example, if you're working in a chemistry lab and you're doing experiments in that lab, yes, it is standard protocol for you to go in and put on protective eye gear, goggles, while you are in the research lab. That is assumed that you will be taking necessary basic safety measures. So you don't necessarily need to say that you will be putting on protective equipment such as eye gear when you're going into a chemistry lab. What is your timeline? Is it reasonable for a PhD student, and what is required for your program? You don't want to have your research illustrated as what a research faculty member might spend 10 or 15 years doing, but something that is scalable and reasonable for an individual at your academic level to achieve. What are the skills necessary to execute your proposed research project? How have you already been trained to execute this project, and what training lies ahead of you? If you don't have the skills or training yet, how will you be addressing this? For many of you, this could be needing to be familiar with certain framework or certain methodology. And the solution to that could very simply be in the following 1 or 2 semesters, I'll be taking a class that will be instructing me or teaching me this important variable. Others may need specific skills such as coding, uh, and that may be something that you are addressing through a summer boot camp. Please don't let the deficit of skills or training not yet obtained be an overwhelming burden for you. If you are concerned about this, please reach out to me and we can discuss how to articulate this successfully in your research plan. What are the other sorts of resources that you need for your project? Do you need certain equipment? Do you need travel resources? Do you need Um, Human capital, such as a research assistant to assist you with various elements of the project. Do you have access to these tools and resources needed to execute your project? And if not, how will you be addressing this? And are there costs associated with your project? If so, how are you addressing the cost factor? Keep in mind that a lot of these various resources and tools that you need to be successful with your project will be in your faculty mentor's lab. And so, for those of you who are in graduate school and have a faculty advisor already, this is something that they will mention in their research, or in their letter of recommendation, that they have a research lab that is equipped with the tools and resources that you need to execute your proposed project. Identify where your research plan is vulnerable. What could possibly go askew? As much as we plan as best as we can for a seamless research project, something always goes not quite according to plan. And this is why, in your personal statement, you talk about the various challenges you may have faced and how you've overcome those, how you've uh, thought critically, how you've adapted, and how you've maneuvered around those challenges. And in that, you have illustrated your resilience. That pairs perfectly with this element of your research plan, where you are identifying what could potentially go wrong or what is a risky element and how you may maneuver around that so that you can still be successful with your proposed research project. This could be depending on a key relationship that you have not yet formed or one that might not pan out. There may be a key step that might not come to fruition, such as access to a field test site or access to a data set. What are the vulnerabilities in your particular project, and what are your contingencies should a vulnerable element fall through? What is your plan B? I want to really emphasize here that plan B is not scrapping your project and starting a new project, but rather how can you maneuver within the confines of your existing project plan? A good example of this is I was working with a student a few years ago who was going to go to a research facility in Egypt to do carbon testing on dental artifacts. That was key for her research project. This was after COVID, and COVID taught us a lot about the importance of contingencies to be able to continue our research projects. So she had already faced these, borders open, borders closed, uh, in person, not accessible due to social distance needs and such. And so that was taken into consideration, but there were also other things that need to be taken into consideration. She was working with an agency of the federal government in Egypt, and government changes could possibly take place before she is able to go to those research labs. Lab leadership could change to where the people who she has a working relationship with are no longer there. And what would happen if she is not able to go and engage in that research project? Obviously, that is key experience for her. She would be able to go not only get the data that she needs, but she would be able to engage in hands-on experiments and skill building that is optimal for her trajectory moving forward. However, she did note in her research plan that should whatever happen, access to that research lab or borders closing or the continuation of a global health crisis that puts everyone in lockdown continues, um, she was able to have access to an existing data set that would still provide her with data to be, for the most part, remain completely successful with her research project. So, what is the vulnerable element of your research project, and how will you maneuver around that should you need to? Again, what are the appropriate relationships that you need? This could be individuals outside of your organization, such as a leader at a national lab, or a researcher at another institution, a field test site, or a community organization. But other relationships that are important are that of a faculty advisor or lab PI. Some of you are applying without a graduate faculty advisor, particularly those of you who are applying as rising seniors or pre-graduate school students. In this case, you don't necessarily have a faculty advisor identified or in mind. You may be in communication at some potential schools with faculty you'd like to work with, and feel free to mention those relationships and why that they are the key people to study under. Additionally, If you do not have those specifics panned out, you will want to then mention what you are looking for in a faculty advisor, someone with this research background, someone who's able to supervise XYZ sort of project because they have a background in XYZ. So if you do not have a faculty mentor in mind already, you don't have an existing relationship, feel free to talk about the characteristics that you are actively seeking. This shows that you are thinking critically about this important relationship that is key for the success of your project. Keep in mind your audience. Who will benefit from your research both directly and indirectly? So, this is going to be part of the intellectual merits and the broader impacts that we'll talk about in a few slides. Who should be interested in your results and why should they care? I am on the social science side of the spectrum. My doctorate is in education policy. And so when I have students from the hard sciences come into my office and talk about their research projects, I like to ask, why should someone like me care about these results? Break that down for me of how the results may be ripples beyond your research project and impact the broader community in various different ways. And we'll talk about this. Those constituencies could be the scientific community, government labs, and the broader community around you. Know who your reviewers are as well. Generally, you will not know them at all. Um, and specifically with the National Science Foundation review process, if there is any element of a conflict of interest, your reviewers will recuse themselves and that review will be moved to another reviewer. So you will not know who your NSF-GRFP application reviewers are. They are going to be a nameless, faceless panel, but they will see who you are. They'll see your name, the school you're attending, and all your application materials. But keep in mind who they are. You don't know their names, you don't know their backgrounds, but they are faculty. They are research faculty. Um, who are published, who are known in their disciplines, but they might not be in your specific discipline. They may be in a broader core area or another area of social sciences or hard sciences within STEM. Additionally, keep in mind that they are very busy individuals. The work that they do as reviewers is on top of their responsibilities teaching classes, grading papers, administering tests, overseeing projects, counseling students, going to conferences, and of course, their own busy personal lives on top of that. They are also uh, advisors for current graduate students. So when they evaluate your research plan, they can look through the lens of how they would counsel students. Are you looking at the things that they are advising their students to be considering, such as those research risks, understanding of the skills and resources necessary, the analyses or framework. So keep in mind that the people who are reviewing are people who are actively known and successful in the realm of research and student advisement. Very importantly, how will you be communicating your results? So, we've all heard the old philosophical question, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to see it, did it make a sound? If you conduct a project and you have groundbreaking results, how will anyone know about it if you don't share it? So, how will you be communicating those results? First, who should care about those results? Others in the academic community, other researchers? Could this be people in the private sector and corporate R&D? Could this be policymakers at the local, state, or federal level, among many others? Do you plan to publish? What are the targeted journals that are ideal for publishing your results? Will you share the results at conferences, whether through posters, panels, presentations? What conferences or organizations would be of interest? And are there any other efforts that you may engage in to communicate your results? A lot of scientific research is meant to address policy and how life is led, how communities are formed and structured, how policies are developed. So how will you be ensuring that those who are sitting on congressional committees or those who are policymakers or policy advisors at the state legislative level, how are you ensuring that they who do need to know these results or this research are being informed? Also consider the return on investment. The NSF is investing in you. This is differs from research grants that your faculty advisors may be funding their labs with. They apply to the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health, and other federal agencies for funding to execute a specific research project or a specific research question. A graduate fellowship, on the other hand, they are funding you. You are pitching a research project that you will be engaging in. You are going to school in a specific discipline and you are going to be growing as a scholar, researcher, and a leader, but it is a fellowship funding you. So, what is the return on that investment and that $37,000 a year, tuition coverage, among other benefits that you receive? Will being a National Science Foundation Fellow provide stepping stones into academia or into a national lab or a government nonprofit organization? Will you learn new marketable skills? What other benefits might you have? Think of it this way. As a PhD student completing a dissertation original research project, you are going to be expected to complete a project of a certain type, no matter what, no matter if you're researching in a PI's lab, if you're teaching classes, or if you're on a fellowship. But fellowships equal freedom. You don't have to teach classes. You don't have to work in a PI's lab when you're on a fellowship because you're being funded through the National Science Foundation. So, with that extra bandwidth of not having to clock in and teach classes, how will you be able to take that research project to the next level? What's that additional benefit that being a fellow will be able to provide for you that otherwise you might not have access to when you are a teaching assistant or a research assistant? We've mentioned a few times here the broader impacts and the intellectual merits, and now we're going to dive into this a little bit more specifically on the right-hand column here, your research plan. The intellectual merits, this is where you describe your academic merit within your work and your research project. Why is answering your research question and the project you are engaging in valuable to your discipline and greater academia? What's remarkable about that question? Will you be filling a gap in literature? Will you be adding a new dimension to research that might not necessarily have been utilized? Will you be bringing in methodologies from a different area, a different discipline, or a different niche area of research into a niche that did not use those frameworks or those lenses that you'll be able to enhance research? What's unique in the intellectual realm? What is your contribution to existing science? So your niche area of research, as one leader communicated to me when I was a student, think of your area of research as the Mona Lisa, as a remarkable, masterful painting. Your individual project is just a brushstroke. So that hopefully does relieve a little bit of pressure of the overwhelming feeling of overall graduate research projects. But that brushstroke is still important to the Mona Lisa. It is important to the overall picture. So, what is your brushstroke in the bigger picture, and why is that important? What is your innovative approach to your research training, and your forthcoming training? As we talked about skills, what are the skills that you have yet to attain that you will? The training that you have yet to engage in that you will? And how will you communicate your research? Be bold and state specifically your plan for presentations, journal publications, etc. The NSF might not necessarily be coming after the fact and saying, hey, you said you were going to publish in this journal and you never did. That won't happen. But what this shows reviewers is that you are thinking critically about the value of your research and the populations and audiences that will benefit from your results. Now, the broader impacts, conversely, this is where you describe the greater reach of your um, research project and the results that you will have. Describe the communities your research will impact and how. What is the importance of your research to broader society? What is the relevance of your research to society? Why should I care about your research as an average Joe on the street? And how will I be impacted by that? Are any specific communities impacted? Who and how? What are the interdisciplinary connections of your research? How will this project impact more than just your primary discipline? What sort of outreach will you engage in? What sort of leadership role will you have within your research? And can you quantify the impact? So, outreach, just like in your broader impacts, we talk about what are the uh, publications you are interested in, what are the presentations or conferences that you want to present at. With your broader impacts, what is beyond that? Will you be sitting down with policymakers? This is a big one that STEM students kind of overlook. Policymakers, state legislators, congressional representatives, county commissioners, city councilmen, they set policy that has environmental factors, have health factors, etc. And they are the ones where your results may impact their policy-making decisions. How will you reach out to that community so that they know what you have discovered, the groundbreaking research you have done, and the results that are wildly impactful to the policy work that they are doing? Additionally, with broader impacts, how will other researchers benefit broader communities? The other day, I was working with a student who is in neuroscience and studying a research question within neural circuitry. So, how different connections are made within the neuro system in our individual bodies. They are not answering questions about neurological health disorders such as dementia or Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis or other similar issues. However, the research question that they are answering could be taken by other researchers to inform their projects that are directly impacting dementia and multiple sclerosis and other neurological conditions. So you individually, through your research project, will not be addressing human suffering, but other researchers who are addressing human suffering can get the value of your results in their research and enhance their research and their quest to answer research problems. So, who are those individuals that will take your research, inform their research with it to impact other broader communities? Here's the suggested page structure for you with your research plan statement. Unlike your personal statement where you have 3 pages, you have less space here. You have 2 pages, 11-point font Times New Roman, single spaced 1-inch margins. You want to start first with introducing your idea. This could be where you mentioned intellectual merit, the broader impact, how you are wanting to change the world. A nice, succinct hook that lures your reviewers in and makes them excited to read the rest of your paper. Then outline your research project, including your objective. What is the research question that you are addressing, and what is the project that you will be using to address that question? How have you prepared to execute this particular project, or what preparation still lies ahead of you? What is your approach? What is the framework you will be working in? What is your methodology? What are the data variables that you are working with? How will data be collected and how will data be analyzed? How will the results be analyzed and evaluated? What are the expected outcomes? Not only like what are the type of outcomes, but do you have a particular hypothesis that you are testing here? Uh, re what are the research findings as well as other things that you might learn from this project, such as utilizing a new methodology that could be used by other researchers as well outside of addressing your individual research question? And what sort of timeline will this project require? Then on the second page, discuss the practicalities. What are the research risks, sensitivities, and what are your contingencies for that? Again, this is where you'll describe your plan B. Plan B is how you will maneuver within the same research project if a certain variable or dimension does not pan out as expected. It is not where you scrap the entire project and insert a new project entirely. Then you'll dive into your intellectual merit. How will this project advance knowledge and create interdisciplinary connections? And what are the broader impacts? How will your project serve your community and more broadly benefit society? Then you'll have a conclusion, and if any, you'll have citations. Now to go over these various elements that we talked about on your structure. Introduce your plan. Here are some suggested hooks. What are you hoping to solve with your research project? This could be linear or broad. What is innovative about your project? What are you doing that is cutting edge? What's a problem left unsolved that you hope to solve? Why have other solutions been ineffective? And what's the overall result of those ineffective solutions that now need you to come in and solve the problem? And what broader impact are you hoping your project will have in the community around you? Then you'll outline your plan. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. So those basic dimensions there. Discuss the risks, the practicalities, intellectual merit, broader impact, then your conclusion. Strategic repetition. You may be repeating various things in different sections of your research plan, and you may also be correlating this with strategic repetition of things mentioned in your personal statement, and then citations. Some writing tips for you to be successful in writing your research plan. Be pithy and succinct and only use what is necessary. Omit unnecessary language, especially technical jargon. As mentioned, your reviewers will not be in your minute, very refined, niche, finite area of research. They may include people in your broader categories, such as chemistry, physics, what have you, but they might not be subject matter experts on your research question. And you will have reviewers outside of your discipline. If you're in chemistry, you might have an engineer review you, a biologist, a physicist. So you want to make sure that if you use technical jargon, which is not inappropriate, you want to make sure it's jargon that people in broad STEM will understand. Or if you do need to use jargon, have a quick definition of that at first reference. Use shorter words over longer, more complicated vocabulary. Again, you have 2 pages. Real estate is valuable. Make sure each sentence is purposeful and use effective repetition between your past research experience, your research skills, originality, awards, and publications that support your work. Originality is key. You do need to weave into your narrative a statement of originality, how you have come to this research problem and how this is your research project moving forward. How is your project going to be different than what others have done? Many of you will be working in a research lab as graduate students with a PI who is doing research that you are interested in. So your research project that you are pitching here can stem from existing research that experts in the field have been doing and publishing about, and your faculty advisors would be experts in that field. But what is the direction you individually are taking away from that that your PI is not? And this is something that will be corroborated or need to be corroborated by your faculty advisor in their letter of recommendation. Please be confident in yourself. The NSF is funding you and your research project, not your PI, not your PI's lab, even though they may be providing support in various ways. Take ownership of your scholarly background and your research experience, as well as your career goals. Be honest about your preparation and acknowledge what still does need to happen. No one who is approaching this fellowship is 100% ready. You still have coursework to do. You still have qualifying exams that you have to pass, and there's a lot of learning that takes place in that process alone, as well as many different dimensions of starting a research project. So be honest about what still lies ahead of you, because we all have something ahead of us. Talk about how your research history supports this research. This could be very specifically, you've acquired the skills and background to do what you are hoping to do. It could also be that you have a diversity of skills and experience that shows that you are adaptable, um, quick to learn, you ask the right questions in a research setting, and you have the resilience to be successful. And let your passion for the discipline and this project show. It's okay to show that you really care about this. In fact, when you let that shine through in your writing, it gets the reviewers pretty excited about it too. What is different about your particular project? Illustrate the cutting edge element, the innovative and creative element here. Projects should not be incremental. When talking about, we've always done this and I'm just changing one individual variable, rather frame this in a way that is innovative and a step outside of the box. Again, illustrate your originality. This can't be your PI's project. It needs to be your project. So what are you really illustrating here for your reviewers? Chances are, the project that you are pitching here today will not be completely what you do in actuality. Some of you aren't even in graduate school yet. So how can you definitively commit yourself to this project when you've not even been admitted to a program? And because you still have coursework ahead of you, whether you are a rising senior, first or second year grad student, you still have more classes, more learning, more exposure to research and, and the various elements and dimensions of your interested areas. So you can't necessarily commit yourself to what you are doing, but what you are showing the reviewers here is that you understand how original research is done, how research itself is conducted. You know how to conduct a scalable and feasible research project. You know how to craft an innovative and cutting edge project. And you know how to consider risks and other important considerations. You know how to ask the right questions. You know how to approach lab work. You know how to evaluate the skills that are needed. You are showing here that you have acumen and potential and skill for this level of research. It's showing the reviewers that once you get to that point where you're ready to start a research project for your PhD program, you are showing that whatever you determine is your research question in your research project, you know how to be successful at it. Are images allowed? This is an excellent question. They are allowed, and sometimes they are recommended. But you must keep in mind this is part of your 2 pages. The NSF does recommend that you use images for equations rather than typing equations and symbols into your narrative. It can get pretty wonky because your narrative needs to be in Times New Roman, but there's a special font that you do need to use outside of Times New Roman for equations, for symbols, and that can mess up your formatting in a number of different ways. So it may be easier to create an image and insert that image of those equations. But here's the catch. It is part of your 2 pages, so you need to ask yourself how purposeful the images are. When and where possible, use your own images, but cite the source if you use others. They shouldn't be too complicated to understand. What sometimes happens here is you insert an image, and that takes up space, but then you have to use a lot of space to describe that image and direct your reader through that image. Whereas it may just be simpler to write about what you're trying to accomplish there. So you need to ask yourself, is this important? How can I describe it? How can I help the reader get value out of that image? And in some cases, you'll find that the image is maybe not necessary. Are references needed, required, allowed? Yes, they are absolutely allowed, but again, they must fit into your 2 page maximum. So you can use, but use sparingly. Select the most important and impactful and respected publications. This is an opportunity to highlight your research as well as those who are informing your research, because all of our research projects are informed by a literature review. So you might select top citations from that to include here. Your paper will not be reviewed by a professor or researcher in your niche area, and maybe not even within your broader discipline. However, if you are referencing journals that are high standard or highly respected, that may be key for your reviewer to recognize that. But at the end of the day, what references show your reviewers is this is not just a project that you are pulling out of thin air, but it is being informed by the literature, which is what, again, these are faculty advisors at their own institution. That's what they're recommending, of course, that their own doctoral students do. So just get started. That's the best advice I can say right now. Just get pen to paper in one way or another. Some of you will want to start with an outline and bullet point each bit and then have your sub bullets and your sub bullets after that. And then take each bullet and start writing a sentence or a paragraph with each. For some of you, that is an excellent method that works well for you. Others will simply want to sit down and write and just get it all out on paper, and then we can refine it from there. I find it's easier to have 1 page or 10 pages. So we can work up from 1 page to 2 pages, or we can go from 10 pages down to 2 pages, but we have something to work with. Um, and you will be going through multiple drafts. Successful applicants go through 15 to 20 drafts of each their research statement and their personal statement. Successful candidates oftentimes go through many more than just that. Utilize the writing resources, which includes the university's writing center as you work on your draft, especially if you're having trouble getting started or organizing your thoughts. The writing consultants are especially helpful in that area. And also keep in mind that word processing software for spelling and grammar checks are not always accurate. So do not rely solely on those features for your spelling and grammar check. This feeds perfectly into proofreading and seeking feedback. You will want to identify multiple proofreading partners. You have a fellowship team here in one way or another to support you in your application in being as successful as possible. This includes your faculty mentor as well as other faculty, especially those of you at the undergrad level applying as rising seniors. You don't have a faculty advisor in a grad program yet. So this could be multiple faculty members who you've taken classes from and they're familiar with you as a student and as a scholar. Could be PIs and faculty whose lab you've worked in, your classmates, friends, roommates, your fellowship advisor, which that would be me, among others. You want a variety of individuals that come from a diversity of different backgrounds. Um, Spelling and grammar feedback is important and valuable, but feedback on your writing and narrative is a good focal point for proofreaders. How your research is being articulated, how the narrative is flowing, how your ideas are coming across, the clarity, the flow, etc. Many reviewers will sit down and review your draft and focus on spelling and grammar. And that's valuable, but you may be wanting them to specifically look at the broader content. A lot of faculty will focus solely on the content with the expectation or assumption that you are addressing grammar and spelling elsewhere. So it's important to set those expectations with your reviewers. You need some to look at spelling and grammar. You need others to look at the overall narrative, the articulation of ideas, etc. And plan to go again through multiple rounds of proofreading and editing. Now, some frequently asked questions when it comes to research plan statements. And some of this that we've talked about today may be valuable, not just with the National Science Foundation, but with other opportunities that you are applying for. Starting right off the bat, how many drafts should I go through? If I were to quantify this, I would definitely say 10, more than 10. A sweet spot is in the 15 to 20 drafts range. Some advice I can give you here is that there's always the ability to continue perfecting your writing. And so there is a point where you come to a conclusion where this is good enough for the purpose of this application. In the doctoral education world, we have a saying, what is a good dissertation? A done dissertation, a completed dissertation, because you could really spend years rewriting your manuscript, redoing your images, reframing your results and your conclusions. But there's a point where it is well written, it articulates good enough, and it meets the objectives and needs for that purpose. Same goes for your research statement in your fellowship application. How important is my faculty advisor in my research statement? Absolutely key. They will attest to the originality of your project as well as confirming that you have the support necessary to complete your project. This is going to be particularly most important for those of you who are applying as second year applicants. You should have a faculty advisor by this point. First year grad students as well as rising seniors, we understand that you may not have a significant relationship with faculty advisor yet, or don't even have an advisor yet, or know what faculty you will be working with because you might not yet know what program that you will be engaging in. In these cases, recommendation writers will be key in this process, such as faculty that you've taken classes from or other PIs whose labs you have worked in, even though you will not be a grad student in their lab. Also, when it comes to faculty advisors and the support you need, if you do not have that yet, describe the characteristics and what you are looking for as you look at programs and evaluate the faculty and those who may be most suitable for supervising your research project. Should I have anyone outside of my faculty advisor or PI review my research plan? 100% absolutely. While your faculty advisor is key in your writing a great research statement, you want to have a diversity of perspectives, classmates, other NSF fellows, and other faculty. Non-STEM proofreaders can be especially valuable in gauging how well your research statement is written. While we might not understand the details and the science and the specifics of those research variables within your project, if we walk away with an idea of what you're trying to accomplish, that's a good thing. But if we walk away feeling like I'm just confused, then you'll want to do some refinement and rewriting. My PI is conducting research that is absolutely fascinating, and I want to continue that, but in a new direction. Is this allowable? Well, this is kind of a gray space. The NSF is not funding your PI and their research initiatives. They're funding you and your original research project. The NSF project must be original. If you are continuing your PI's research agenda, that is not allowable. However, as we mentioned a few slides ago, your PI is an expert in their field. They are researching and they are publishing, and it is that literature and their results that are informing your project. That is allowable, but you may be then taking that foundation that your PI is providing and taking this in a direction that they, in their own research, are not doing, and that is allowable. Here are some various resources that are available to you. The annual solicitation is available at nsf-grfp.org. The 2024 solicitation was posted on July 12th, and the portal also opened on that same day. So you're able to go in and begin building your project or begin building your application. What is a solicitation? I've used that phrase a few times here. For those of you who do not know, the annual solicitation is the annual announcement of the award, and it includes in that deadlines. Please look and check the deadlines. The specifics of the awards, including the benefits, eligibility for the award, specifics of the application, which includes the formatting requirements, as well as in the appendices, you'll see the broader areas of research, such as chemistry, physics, and astronomy, etc., but then subfields. You must identify a subfield that aligns with your research interests. So, for example, you might be in chemistry and you may be looking at AI in chemistry. There is a subfield for artificial intelligence within the category of chemistry. So you'll need to gauge what will that more specific area be for you. You can find a recording of this workshop and other workshops, tools, and resources available to you on the University of Utah's NSF-GRFP website, which is nsf-grfp.utah.edu. Your faculty mentor, whether this is your undergraduate faculty or your graduate faculty, they are there to help you be successful. But everyone will approach this a little bit differently. Some are very hands-on from the very beginning. Others will want to see some work done before they start engaging more directly in the process. The University of Utah Writing Center is a resource that you're able to utilize not just during the school year, but during the summer as well. And graduate fellowship advising, that's where I come in. I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one, meet with you and your PI or you and your classmates to discuss the fellowship as well as review your drafts of your research statement and your personal statement. Appointments can be made by emailing fellowships@gradschool.utah.edu. And that's it for this presentation on NSF-GRFP applications and research plan statements. I'm Dr. Matthew Plooster, Assistant Dean of the Graduate School at the University of Utah, and I can be reached again at fellowships@gradschool.utah.edu with any questions or concerns that you may have, as well as to set up advising appointments. Have a great day, and I wish you the greatest of success in your research statement and your pursuit of the National Science Foundation Fellowship.